This has got to be one of the most insane reworks we've ever seen. Well, guess I'm going to be banning Wukong every game now. Hello Summoners and welcome back to another ProGuides video. My name is Christoph and today we'll be going over all the latest changes for the upcoming Wukong rework. We finally have a confirmed release date for him, which is going to be patch 10.6. If everything goes well, then you should expect him to hit the live servers on that date. But guys, this rework is actually insane. The changes that we covered in our previous video were kind of meh, but he's received a lot of upgrades since then, and I can guarantee you guys that he'll be really, really strong. 200 collective years of experience comes in clutch and creates another overtuned champion rework. Thank you guys. But before we get started, if you guys are getting ganked in your own lane, constantly getting demolished, don't worry, we got you guys covered. Go to the description link below, go find your challenger coach right now, and start winning more games. And for our question of the day, what do you guys think of the new Wukong rework? Personally, I think he's just overpowered. I just don't think they did a good job with it, but it's nice to see that Wukong is at least getting some love. I like that. Alright, let's jump right into the video. Alright guys, so let's cover one really important thing. I want you to scrap everything you remember about the Wukong rework changes that we covered in our previous video. These new changes are not even comparable to those. Riot actually included new changes. So let's start off with his base stats. Firstly, Wukong is receiving a buff to his base mana per level. This is being increased from 265 base with plus 38 per level to 300 base with plus 40 per level. Although this change doesn't seem like much, it's actually very impactful. A spell-heavy top lane champion like Wukong tends to go mana hungry throughout the entire game. The balanced team are loosening up on that constraint and are making his harass combos more spammable. Next up, his base magic resist is being lowered from 32.1 to 28, and his base health is being reduced from 577.8 to 540. This is because they don't want Wukong to be a dominant mid laner. Reducing the MR and HP will mean that he will struggle harder against most mid laners like Syndra, LeBlanc, Lux, and other AP mages. Alright, now here's where it all gets really spicy. Let's move on to his passive, which is called Stone Skin. So this allows him to gain 5+1 armor per level passively. This does mean that the magic resist portion did get removed, but trust me, it's well worth it. This passive now also grants Wukong 1% of his max HP regen per 5 seconds, and the bonus armor and regen are increased by 100% every time Wukong or his clone hits an enemy champion or large monster, stacking up to 5 times. This means that Jungle Wukong will literally be taking 0 damage because he'll have the Graves armor passive whenever he fights camps. So during a late game team fight, Wukong will be able to stack up to 115 armor. This is an extremely powerful passive, and it'll allow Wukong to be played in the mid lane as a counter to AD champs or as a jungler and top laner. He can pretty much become unkillable while also building pure glass cannon because of his passive. And guys, this isn't even the best part or the worst part, depending on how you feel about Wukong. The armor was just the tip of the iceberg. Wait until you hear about his Q, Crushing Blow. So this ability will now increase his auto attack range to 75 to 175 instead of 125 flat. In addition to that, it'll now cost 30 to 50 mana and have a 10 to 6 second cooldown. Crushing Blow will also deal 30 to 130 damage with 60% bonus AD scaling, and the cast time will now scale with attack speed. On top of that, it'll also shred the opponent's armor for 4 seconds instead of 3 seconds. Although 1 second doesn't seem like that much, it's actually really important for squeezing in extra abilities or attacks during your combos. And lastly, here comes the best part about his Q. Whenever you or your clone deal damage with your basic attack or abilities, your Q's cooldown will be reduced by 0.5 seconds. This means that you can pretty much perma-spam this ability if you have the right combos. Just imagine having an empowered auto attack like Camille or Naz's Q that you can pretty much spam during your trades. With 40% cooldown, you can have a base CD of 3.6 seconds, so imagine having you and your clone constantly taking off 0.5 seconds from this amount. This ability, needless to say, will be extremely powerful. Next up, let's talk about the most interesting part, which is his W, Warrior Trickster. This ability costs 60 mana and has a 20 to 14 second cooldown. What Warrior Trickster does though is it now summons a clone which mimics Wukong's attack and ultimate, but deals only 40 to 60% of that damage. Your mimicked basic attacks will now attempt to attack enemies Wukong has recently attacked. Your Q will empower the clone's next attack, your E will give your clone an attack speed buff, and your ultimate will make the clone start spinning and knock up enemies that haven't been knocked up already. This ability will now also give you a 300 range dash that can go over small walls. This is very similar to Kindred's Q range, so whichever walls that she can dash over, you can do that as well. Warrior Trickster will also give you stealth for 1 second flat and will no longer deal AoE magic damage on despawn. One thing to note is that the clone will mirror Wukong's animation during the spawn, so you'll now be unable to tell if he's just standing still or if he's actually used his clone. This ability is insanely strong, guys. Really good Wukong players will be able to play mind games with their opponents and juke the crap out of everyone on the enemy team. Okay, now moving on to his E, Nimbus Strike. Firstly, this ability will deal 80 to 240 damage with 80% AP scaling. Adding on to that, the attack speed buff this ability grants will last for 5 seconds, and the cooldown has been changed from 8 flat to 10 to 8 seconds. Nimbus Strike will also cost 40 to 60 mana, and the offset distance from the unit dash to will be changed from 0 to 75. One big change that was reverted from the previous video is that his E would follow enemies kinda like Lee Sin's Q. Wukong's E hasn't really changed all that much compared to the iteration we mentioned before, and is one of the less major changes. Lastly, let's talk about his ultimate Cyclone. So this ability is receiving a ton of major changes, starting with the new effect, which allows you to cast this a second time within 9 seconds. However, the second cast will not knock up enemies who were hit by it first. The spin duration has been lowered from 4 seconds down to 2 seconds, and the damage per second has been buffed to 120% of your total AD, with 3 to 9% with plus 1% per 100 AD of your opponent's max HP. The movement speed while spinning has been changed from 5 to 40% to 20 to 40% based off skill rank, and the time before you can cancel the spin has been lowered from 5 seconds to 1 second. Lastly, the tick rate of this ability has been lowered down to 0.25 seconds, the attack range while spinning lowered to 50, and his E's attack speed will refresh while he is spinning as well. The damage and cooldown adjustments were aimed at making Wukong's early game very strong in exchange for some late game power. They also want to make it so that his Q is a much better ability to max than his E. Overall, these changes are really big, and it'll make Wukong a very strong top laner. He'll still be playable in 3 different roles, but his main strengths lie in the jungle and the top lane. I know Wukong has been changed like a million times in the PvE already, and I really have a lot of hope for this iteration, although I'm not that excited about it, to be honest. I think it's the best and most fun they've created, but the balance team might need to iron out some of these numbers before he's released on live servers. I'm a huge fan of the W and ult changes though, and the new passive is much more interesting than the previous one that they had. That's it for the Wukong update. If you guys enjoyed watching this video, then please leave a like, comment, or subscribe to be notified of the next video. Also, make sure to check out ProGuides.com if you want to see huge improvements to your rank this season. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck your next few games, and I'll see you on the Rift.